deals even better. Together, let's drive. Bennett Chevy, Egg Harbor Township, and BennettChevy.com.
Home of the Sports Bash with Mike Gill, 97.3 ESPN, WENJ, WENJ HD, Millville, Atlantic City. This is Game Night with Josh Hennig.
Let's go!
On 97.3 ESPN and the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app.
And he scored!
Now live from inside the Ocean Casino Resort Studio, here's Josh Hennig.
It's a Football Friday and a Flyers Friday here on 97.3 ESPN FM and 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Seattle. Yes, the Flyers are tonight. You can hear the game on 97.3 ESPN, and we'll get more into the Flyers coming up in less than 20 minutes from Kevin Durso, our Flyers insider from 97.3 ESPN.com. I am Josh Hennig, hanging out with you in the Ocean Casino Resort Studios. We'll get you my Football Friday picks a little bit later in the hour. Also talk some Flyers and take your guys' messages at 609-403-0973. Your DMs into the 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Seattle. I see Jeff from Ocean City and others. So we'll get to all of you guys in just a bit. But I want to give you some thoughts on the Eagles-Browns game this Sunday is going to be very interesting to me because everything optically says that this Eagles team should go out there and frankly dominate a mediocre Browns team. I don't think that people understand that the Browns are just not a good team this year. And I keep going back to the fact that when I look at this game this Sunday, the only reason why the Eagles should lose is if they shoot themselves in the foot, they trip over their own feet, they implode. This Browns team has only one thing going for it, and that's their defensive line. It is only their defensive line that has really any value in this game. Their quarterback is one of the worst I have ever seen. Their offensive line, well, it's not good. Their linebackers are injured and banged up. This entire team is a mess. And yet, why are we still worried about this game? And I mean that in all sincerity. Why are we worried about this game? And I think it has to do with the fact this team in Philadelphia has and will be, until they prove otherwise, an enigma wrapped in a paradox. On paper, the Philadelphia Eagles should be 3-1 this year. They should have beat the Falcons. We can, if we're being realistic, we can look at the Bucs game, big picture, as a scheduled loss because they were without their two best wide receivers and arguably their best offensive lineman. Now, should the defense have played better? Absolutely. But at the end of the day, the offense was never going to be elite or something to write home about. So the way I look at it is I look at this Eagles team as now they're healthy. They're coming out of a bye week. They've recalibrated. Jalen Hurts says him and the head coach are in harmony, right? They're all saying the right things. So why are some people still having doubts about this team? I think it comes down to the fact that there has been a lot of exaggerations about the state of this franchise. John McMullen was on with Mike Gill on Thursday's show. He was on today as well, but on Thursday's show, he brought up the fact that, some of these national reporters, when it comes to the Eagles, they don't get around the news when it happens. And what happens is that, as John explained, basically some of these guys are reading transcripts of coaches speaking and they run with it like it's a news story. When it's like, well, it's not really your news report because you just took it from a transcript. You took it from what the coaches said, and you're basically, I don't want to say they're exaggerating, because a lot of these reporters, they're just doing their jobs, right? But there is something to be said for the fact that maybe some of the negativity that we all have felt about this team has been fed into, amplified, exaggerated, or whatever adjective you want to use. I think when you look around the NFL, you have to understand that unless you're the Kansas City Chiefs, every team is capable of losing. It's not that the Minnesota Vikings are the best team in the NFC, but they have a great defensive coordinator right now who is absolutely on fire as a play caller. And outside of one game, their defense has been elite. And in the one game, they struggled. Well, Jordan Love did the same thing to the Vikings defense he did to the Eagles defense, basically. It's not that the Vikings are the best team in football, but one side of the ball is playing at such a high level, it has been an incredible compliment to the offense. It's not the Kansas City Chiefs actually are unbeatable or untouchable, but again, the Chiefs defense has played at such a high level, it has been an incredible compliment to Patrick Mahomes. And again, like the Vikings defense, there's only one game this year where the Chiefs defense looked vulnerable. And it was Joe Burrow and the Bengals. Outside of that, every single week the Chiefs defense has found a way to get it done. So realistically for the Eagles, the only question we should have moving forward is about the defense. And one of my keys for this game is, if on paper the Eagles offense is supposed to be as good as they are, and the Browns defense on paper and optically is as bad as we all think it is, there's no reason why the Cleveland Browns should have any chance to win this game at all. Look, I get it. The Eagles defense has had problems this year, okay? We all know that. I'm not stupid. I've seen the same games you guys have. They've really only played well for what? They've played 4 games this year, so that's 16 quarters. So they've played really good football, has the Eagles defense. Of those 16 quarters of football, they have played well for 7. So basically, less than half of the season, the Eagles defense has played well. They were fortunate they didn't give up more points in the Packers game because of the turnovers. The Falcons game, frankly, they should have won, but they didn't because of the fact that Saquon Barkley drops the ball and the defense basically let Kirk Cousins slice and dice them up. They played great against the Saints. They got sliced and diced by Baker Mayfield and the Bucks. And Jordan Love had a pretty good day against them as well. The Eagles told us this offseason, by hiring Vic Fangio and firing most of the coaching staff that the defense was supposed to be better this year. They drafted Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean, and they added C.J. Gardner-Johnson. They brought him back to upgrade the secondary. They upgraded the linebackers with Zach Bond, right? On paper, again, this should be a better defense. And the biggest key for me on Sunday is, will the Eagles defense show up and play the way they should? Because over the coming weeks, you have a strong opportunity to re-cement yourself. The upcoming schedule, next 5 teams are a combined 8-17. And on paper, of the next 5 games, you should at bare minimum win 3 of them. This Sunday against the Browns, next week against the Giants, and then the week after that, 2 weeks from after that, against Jacksonville. Those on paper should be wins. Now, the Cincinnati game and the Dallas game is going to be hard to gauge right now because it really depends on who is healthy in those games for the Bengals and the Cowboys, number one. And number two, if Dak and Burrow play the way we know they're capable of, it could definitely create some problems for this team. But I'm just putting it out there that if you're being realistic, the rest of the Eagles season could be set this Sunday. Because if you go out there and let the defense go out there and complement the Eagles' offense, like the Chiefs and the Vikings have had success with this year, for an Eagles team that theoretically should be 3-1 and not 2-2, it changes the whole dynamic of the season. We'll get to your text a little bit later in the hour. Jeff from Ocean City and more, 609-403-0973. Your DMs into the 973 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Sea Isle City. Coming up on the other side, though, speaking of changing the dynamics, Matvei Mishkov, the superstar, makes his Flyers regular season debut tonight. The Flyers begin the season on the road. Vancouver tonight, Calgary tomorrow night, Edmonton on Tuesday, and Seattle next Thursday. And you can hear all the games right here on 97.3 ESPN FM, the 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank. And see how more about Mishkov and the Flyers next with our 97.3 ESPN.com Flyers insider Kevin Durso joins me on 97.3 ESPN FM and 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Sea Isle City.
Wake up weekday mornings from 6 to 10 a.m. with Unsportsmanlike on 97.3 ESPN with Evan Cohen, Super Bowl champion Chris Canty, and Michelle Small.
Can't wake up without it.
Brought to you by the Gallery Bar Book and Games at Ocean Casino Resort in Atlantic City.
It's the time of year for killer deals. You've had your eye on some hot new wheels. We want to pay off your loan or lease and tell your old car to rust in peace.
Get your Matt Black Kia today. Buried in a loan or lease? Matt Black Kia wants to get you released. Then treat yourself to 0 down, 0 payments until next year. Even 0% up to 72 months on every clearly marked new Matt Black Kia in stock. You won't need a costume to get a brand new Matt Black Kia Forte LXS under 20 grand. That's right, a brand new Kia, just $19,999 with any trade. That's less than most used vehicles.
It's gotta be a Matt Black Kia.
Bulletproof credit 24 EV9 and 6, $1388 per thousand. Not all will qualify. Credit may affect down payment. Offers can't be combined. Go to MattBlackKiaNJ.com for complete details or 888-505-6670. Price includes all costs to be paid by consumer, except for licensing, registration, and taxes through KMF. Rebates and incentives to dealer. Expires 10/31/24.
Matt Black Kia, 6211 Black Horse Pike, Egg Harbor Township, and on Route 37 in Toms River.
Attention! If you owe money to the IRS, this is an urgent message. The IRS is cracking down by sending out heart-stopping letters, aggressively garnishing paychecks, seizing bank accounts, and putting liens on homes and businesses. They call it enforced compliance, and you better watch out because penalties and interest on unpaid taxes compound daily, making it seem impossible to ever get out of debt. Don't let the tax debt destroy your life. You need to call Optima Tax Relief, the #1 tax resolution firm. They're experts in the Fresh Start Initiative, one of the biggest breaks that the IRS has ever offered. If you qualify, you could save thousands. Optima's resolved over $1 billion of tax debt for their clients. A+ rated with the Better Business Bureau, they'll fight to get you the best deal possible. Call Optima now for a free consultation.
Call 800-367-6289. 800-367-6289. 800-367-6289.
Optima Tax Relief.
Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
It's hurricane season. Are you prepared? Don't get left in the dark. Calvi Electric, a certified Generac dealer, has you covered. From installation to maintenance, they're your go-to experts for Generac generators, ensuring your home stays powered through any storm. A Generac home standby generator will automatically restore power to your home during an outage, so your life goes on uninterrupted. Put your trust in Calvi Electric, the premier electrical contractor serving South Jersey for over 115 years. Visit CalviElectric.com today or call 609-345-0151.
This is the Town Square, New Jersey Info and Weather Network.
Progressive Insurance presents the Sports Flash on 97.3 ESPN. The Eagles and the Cleveland Browns meet at the Link on Sunday. It is week number 6 in the NFL. Philadelphia coming off a bye week. They sit at 2-2. Wide receiver Devontae Smith practiced fully on Thursday as he tries to come back from a concussion. The Browns are 1-4. They're only scoring 15 points per game, while Eagles quarterback Jalen Hurts has 7 turnovers this season, second most in the league. Catch Eagles-Browns Sunday right here on ESPN 97.3. NHL, the Flyers opening up the regular season tonight. They'll face the Vancouver Canucks as Philadelphia opens up with 4 straight games on the road and includes stops in Calgary, Edmonton, and Seattle. The Sixers are in Des Moines, Iowa, NBA preseason against the Minnesota Timberwolves on a neutral court. Philadelphia will then head to Boston on Saturday for a game against the Celtics. Bundle auto and home, renters, or condo and save with Progressive. I'm Tony Desiri, and that's your Sports Flash on 97.3 ESPN.
Texting enrolls you in a recurring automated marketing text messages. Consent not required to purchase. Message and data rates may apply.
The team's looking good this season.
I think so. Man, I miss playing football. Being young with unlimited energy to burn. Ever since I turned 40, I just can't find that fire I used to have.
Think you could be lower testosterone?
What do you mean?
All guys lose their edge when they turn 40. The body has less testosterone. That's why I take Nugenix Total T.
I've heard about Nugenix. That really works?
Since I started taking Nugenix, I'm lifting like when we played for Coach Carter. I feel more energized at work. It's even spiced up things between me and the missus.
Are they still giving out complimentary bottles for people to try?
Yep, send a text. It's that easy.
Text GRIT to 42424 right now for your complimentary bottle of Nugenix Total T. It's the #1 selling testosterone boosting brand at GNC and Walmart. Do it now and they'll also send you a bottle of Nugenix Thermo X, their newest, most powerful fat burner ever, absolutely free. Text GRIT to 42424. That's GRIT to 42424.
These statements have not been evaluated by the FDA. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
From the Town Square, New Jersey Info and Weather Network, I'm Chief Meteorologist Dan Zarrow. This weekend starts with wonderful weather, but things will get a little iffy by the end of the weekend as we eye a big cool down for early next week. Clear skies tonight and cool temperatures, low of 53, no frost this time around. Tomorrow, sunny and warm, breezy at times for your Saturday, high 75. 77 on Sunday, becoming mostly cloudy with a chance of a shower. Temperatures take a big tumble on Monday. Get weather 24/7 wherever you are. Download our free mobile app today.
Hi, it's Pete from Chickie and Pete's. Wrap up your workday with the all-new Chickies and Pete's Happy Hour with unbeatable specials weekdays from 4 to 6 p.m. Enjoy half-price orders of Chickies meaty and tender wings, one of our tasty and delicious pizzas, or an order of mouth-watering hot, cold, or fried shrimp. Plus $3 domestic bottled beers, $5 Tito's, and $6 seltzers. It's the all-new Happy Hour, weekdays 4 to 6 p.m., only at Chickies and Pete's. Hi, it's Pete from Chickie and Pete's. Now, for a limited time, it's buy one, get one free snow crab legs every Tuesday and Wednesday. Buy one, get one free, and enjoy the sweet, delicate flavor of snowy white crab meat. Pair it with one of our handcrafted cocktails like the Stoli Vanilla Creamsicle or the Bourbon Peach Sweet Tea. Top it off with Chickie and Pete's world famous crab fries. Buy one, get one free snow crab legs every Tuesday and Wednesday for a limited time. Restrictions apply only at Chickies and Pete's.
This is Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app.
We'll get to Jeff in Ocean City and others on the text board in just a bit at 609-403-0973. Your DMs into the 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Seattle right now, as promised, joining us. It must be hockey season because Kevin Durso is back here on game night on 97.3 ESPN. Kevin, welcome in. How you doing on opening night?
It's like Christmas morning, Josh. It's like there's been so much to do, so much to talk about, a lot to unwrap, I feel like, in this Flyer season to start with, more than usual and more than in the last several years. So it's kind of like Christmas morning, and you're running down the stairs and there's this big gift box with a bow on top, big bow on top of it, waiting to be unwrapped. And I think Flyers fans are going to be excited about who that is. And
of course, folks, you can catch Kevin Durso's Flyers coverage, not just at 97.3 ESPN.com, as well as on Twitter X at Kevin_Durso. But the Flyers Files episode, first one is up right now at the 97.3 ESPN YouTube channel. So Durso's got full-blown coverage all season long for us with 97.3 ESPN. So let's start with the biggest gift of all, because you know the real reason why people care, Kevin. It's not because the team almost made the playoffs last year. It's not because John Tortorella has become a part of Philadelphia folklore almost at this point. It's not because Danny Briere and Keith Jones are running the team. It's because of that kid Mishkov, who is making his debut tonight. So give the audience an idea of what is a realistic expectation for a player like him in his first year.
Yeah, and it's for me, it's hard to put numbers onto expectations. I don't like doing that because it feels like it sets quantitative goals. I focus more on the quality of his play. He's very impressive, and to me, I think one of the biggest things with him is not necessarily his own play. It's the way he's going to affect everybody else around him. I can't wait to see the impact that it has on other players, because he's clearly one of these players that, you know, I'm not right on top of the action. I'm sitting several hundred feet away watching him play when I'm in the press box. I can see from up there the wheels turning in his head. He's thinking one step ahead of everybody else. And just that thought that he's thinking the game faster than everybody else is exciting. We see stuff like that from players like Connor McDavid, and that's what the excitement about Connor Bedard was last year. We see that from these top end prospects that have that high skill level, and he's got it. So now I don't want to just see it from his aspect. I want to see it from everybody. You know, to me, his preseason, he played in 4 preseason games and he had 3 goals, 4 assists for 7 points, which sounds pretty good just on paper alone. I think there were times, though, like his 3 goals came in unique situations, an empty netter, a power play goal, and he scored in overtime, which is 3-on-3. I got more impressed sometimes by the plays that he was making that didn't result in points than the ones that did. He has shown flashes of using that thought process. He attempted a lacrosse style goal at one point, or he's making passes that set up great scoring chances and don't result in goals, or he's putting himself in position to get a good scoring chance for himself. All of that is exciting. And then you package the offensive skill set with things that I think people didn't expect from him. He's really good at protecting the puck and winning puck battles. Don't think anybody saw that coming right away. And he showed some ability to have some defensive awareness and be good on the back check. So he seems like a guy who's receptive to every aspect of the game, which is going to endear him to the coaching staff. And then obviously the skill set is what's going to endear him to fans, because he's got the chance to show you things that you haven't seen from a player in a Flyers uniform in quite some time. And that's what's really exciting.
You mentioned about him protecting the puck. Can you explain that a little more? Because I know for, you know, the hockey people, they understand what that means, but I would always equate it to it's the equivalent of a quarterback not fumbling the ball, for example, or an infielder cleanly fielding the ball before throwing it. So, you know, why is that not? Because the average person, Kevin, they're like, well, it's common sense. You protect the puck. So why are you saying that relevant?
Yeah, well, I'll draw a comparison to a different kind of football play for you. To me, this is a wide receiver who is able to get yards after the catch and make an extended play after the first tackle attempt. staying on your feet, making something more happen in a situation where it looks like you're going to lose. In this situation in hockey, it's lose the puck, but in a situation where you might in football go down at it, it's a pass to the line of scrimmage, you're going to get hit there and you go down right away. So you gain nothing out of that. Instead, you break a tackle, maybe you gain 10 more yards, you get your first down out of that, and it prolongs the play, it moves things forward. He's got the ability to extend plays longer than people think. And he comes to look at him, when I first got the chance to actually see him in person, I did notice, he's got broad shoulders. He doesn't miss leg day at the gym. He's a guy who definitely puts in the work. And so he's built well for a 19-year-old. And that's great, but you got to apply it on the ice. And once I actually got to see him play and win more battles, to me, one of the guys I would have put him with typically, and he's going to start probably on a line with Sean Couturier and Travis Konechny, which tells you how good the kid could possibly be. That's immediate first line placement, according to what John Tortorella has laid out. I would have put him on a line initially in my head with Morgan Frost and Tyson Forster. And part of the reasoning was, Morgan Frost is another creative guy, so that was just supposed to feed into the creativity aspect. But Tyson Forster is a really good forechecker and can go get the puck. So my thought there was have somebody who puts in that work along the boards, in the corners, maybe wins a battle, and then sets up the two creative guys. And it turns out Mishkov is actually the type of guy who can set that up for himself, can maybe attain possession and then get creative on his own. So that's what makes me excited about him, is that it wasn't part of necessarily the profile that everybody was thinking from the beginning. He's got a great skill set in a lot of other areas, but when he does something like that and can become a catalyst in a different way, it only makes it even better that he's got that in him.
Talking with Kevin Durso, our Flyers insider from 97.3 ESPN.com at Kevin_Durso on the Twitter X platform. Okay, so Mishkov is obvious. So I think we can at least say that he's a phenom. We don't know what he's going to do in the number sense, but we know that he is already going to make an impact in some sense, in a positive way for this team. Now, listen, I'm glad you brought up the leg day things. One of the concerns I had with Connor Bedard was how skinny he was last year with the Blackhawks. So we're not talking about Connor Bedard, who is, who's still realistically growing into his body. I mean, Bedard's probably 4 or 5 years away from growing into his body, honestly. Whereas Mishkov, you're already saying that he at least looks like he's built for this a little better than that. So then last year, just to use an example, the Flyers, they basically fell apart down the stretch, right? They collapsed down the stretch. It was a huge reason why, even though Samuel Ersson played above his skis at the very end of the season, trying to get them in there, right? But so what does Mishkov, if he was on last year's team, how would he have made a difference?
I think the first area you point to is the power play. And it's a big reason why they didn't make the playoffs in the end is they finished dead last in power play. The power play percentage was a measly 12.2%, well below, I believe when I added it up or pointed it out in one of my storylines for the season, was at least 3% below the next team in line. So it wasn't like it was a close last place. It was well into last place. And a player with the creativity and the skill set that Mishkov has can elevate your power play at least a little bit. And I'm sitting here thinking, and Danny Briere went a little bit lower than I did. I kind of am thinking if they got to middle of the pack in the power play, that would change some things around, maybe make them more of a playoff contender. Because you got to be, if you're middle of the pack in the power play, you're definitely scoring at a higher clip than 12.2%. You're probably scoring much closer to 20%. They make an 8% jump on the power play this year. That's very substantial for them. And I don't know if that would go to middle of the pack. Danny Briere said 22nd probably gets them in. And you know what? He's right about that. You could probably add no more than 5 or 6 power play goals to their total last season, and it's probably enough to win 1 or 2 games that they lost, and that would have made the difference and probably gotten them into the playoffs and gotten them that spot that the Washington Capitals got on the final day of the season. So that's one of the biggest areas of impact that I'm waiting to see. And John Tortorella has talked a lot, and they've worked a lot as a team in the week since their last preseason game on these kind of unique situations that aren't played the entire game. 5-on-4 when you're on a power play, 4-on-4, 3-on-3 when you're in overtime. There's a lot of points up for grabs when there's more ice to work with, when you get into these situations in the game where another team could take advantage of that with their skill set. Now you've got that level of player on the ice for you. You want to take advantage of that. And that could be to me, that's one of the biggest differences between whether or not they make the playoffs this year or miss the playoffs. My expectation is that I don't see it for them just yet because Mishkov's one player, the same way Connor Bedard for Chicago is one player.
Mm-hmm.
But that is an area where if Mishkov is spreading the wealth and helping set up a lot of teammates in the process, and a big part of it is the power play, they'll be able to make an impact and they'll hang around more than people think, again, because of the fact that they are getting more offensive production. And it's not just from Mishkov alone. It's from everybody who's on the ice on that power play unit. The very first time they deployed the power play in the preseason and he's on it, they ended up scoring a pretty nice goal with some nice puck movement. And Mishkov didn't touch the puck. He was on the other side, almost like a decoy, and everybody else is touching it because in the back of the mind of the penalty killers out there, better keep an eye on number 39 because he's a really skilled guy. And it creates some open spaces for maybe some other guys to work with. So that can have an impact as well. So to me, that is the difference. If we're talking last year's team to this year's team and specifically what he brings, I think that's an area that really could be turned in the Flyers' favor more. If Mishkov can have an impact on the power play like that and turn it into more goals, could lead to more wins, could lead to a playoff appearance.
So let's just, for the sake of having the conversation, right? Let's say the Flyers are in the position to make the playoffs again this year, or they do make the playoffs this year. How does that change or not change the trajectory of this team? Because I know that, when I spoke to Keith Jones earlier this year here on 97.3 ESPN, he was very clear that this is not we're turning it around in a year or two, that this plan is very long term, and that him and Briere, that this is not a short-term plan. So even if the Flyers make the playoffs, right, or let's say they get in the last day of the season or whatever, how does that impact what this team is doing short-term and long-term?
Well, I think what you're considering, and right now, I guess it would be considered long-term, is because you're thinking ahead that you have a lot of early draft picks, or at least first-round, second-round picks in the 2025 draft that you really invested in, because a lot of that work was done starting late last season, then around draft time this season. You gained 2 more first-round picks. You've got multiple second-round picks this year. That's going to set you up to draft more, and that's where the eye on the future is. But I think if they're in a position to make the playoffs or do make the playoffs, there's a big answer to one of their questions, which is who grows individually on this team that makes themselves kind of irreplaceable. That would be kind of the big question I would want answered. Like at the end of the year, if they're sitting in a playoff position or close to, and Joel Farabee has a better year than he did last year, or Morgan Frost finally has the offensive production year that they've been waiting for, maybe that answers a question about, yeah, okay, that guy is a firm part of the core going forward. I feel like they've answered that question partially with, you gave Travis Konechny an 8-year extension. You gave Owen Tippett a contract extension. You've answered that they're part of the future. But what about some of these other guys that you're going to have to answer that question on in the near future? Cam York, Morgan Frost, Joel Farabee will be due for a new contract soon. Tyson Forster's due for a new contract after this season. Where do all these guys fit into this equation? And if they have a really good, successful season, then you probably have your answer and you're willing to back it with a contract extension or a new contract that has some term attached to it that says that they're here for the long haul as well. And that's what builds your long-term future. In the short term, I think right now you just want to play and you want to let things play out because this is your team. You've pretty much, outside of 2 rookies on the roster, you've run it back. You want to see what you got and see if it results in the same kind of season or better. And if it doesn't, and it's more of a step back, you have a lot more answers about what guys do stick longer. So I think that this is another year to find things out. It's a little less about finding sure things that are subtractions at the end of the year and more about seeing who grows into a role where they become a guy that you don't feel like you can replace on this roster that needs to be on the roster.
It wouldn't be a conversation with Flyers insider Kevin Durso here on 97.3 ESPN if we didn't talk about the goaltenders. Now, look, I will say, not to pat myself on the back, but I was a Ursan believer last year. So to me, I don't look at him starting this year as a negative, but I understand for some people, there's still a perception of him as, is he the guy? Is he not the guy? How does Fedotov, the backup, fit in? And by the way, can we bring up the fact that Ersan and Fedotov are 2 completely different human beings? Like Fedotov is a massive goaltender of like almost borderline historic physical proportions for a goaltender in hockey. And Ersan is a much smaller human being. So you can't fairly compare them even when they do, if they play the same number of games, because they're playing a different style of game. So with that leading in, Kevin, take it away.
Well, to me, they're both really big because, like, I'm actually looking up at a picture I have in my office of me in one of the media scrums with Sam Ersson, and he is much taller than I am, and obviously, and then Ivan Fedotov towers over every one of us that could possibly be part of a media scrum. I think one of the interesting things about Ersan is that I think you can be both emotions here. Like, you can love the guy, think he's definitely capable of being a starter, and still be a little nervous about it, because that's the message John Tortorella had. His exact words were the goaltending scares the crap out of him. And I understand where he's coming from, because now you're in a position where Ersan's the number one. And the good news about that is that he gets to go into the year knowing that was definitely an unknown when last season started. He was more in line to be the backup, and then all of a sudden, started to emerge as the number one a little bit, or at least in the eyes of some people, emerged as the number one because he was outplaying Carter Hart.
Mm-hmm.
And then Carter Hart goes on leave, and it turns into that's Sam Ersson's net, and it hasn't changed. And really down the stretch, like, to me, Fedotov is actually the bigger catalyst to whether the goaltending helps this team or not. And it's not anything against Fedotov. It's more, I haven't seen enough to know whether or not he's going to be the backup for the whole season or not, or if they're going to have to try something else like they did last year. Bottom line was, at the end of last season, they didn't have anybody behind Sam Ersson who they could trust to come in. So Ersson just had to play, and they had no choice. You just keep going in there because you're the only guy who gives us a shot to win, even on the games where it's apparent you're gassed and you don't have much left in the tank, and they're going to lose. You're going to lose a game like they did in Montreal, giving up 9 goals as a team.
And really quick, Kevin, not to interrupt you, but I just want to point out to the audience, maybe they don't remember because it was so long ago for some people. People are very what's in the moment, what's happening right now. But
sure,
you could argue that one of the reasons why they collapsed in March and April was because if they had a competent backup goaltender, maybe they win 2 or 3 extra games down the stretch.
To me, it's one of my top 3 things that would influence whether or not they make the playoffs or not. Like, I don't have them there because I think the goaltending is a weakness area, but especially for how much you have to use a backup, you're going to want to use a backup. Like, perfect example, you're starting the year on a back-to-back. Ivan Fedotov's getting tomorrow's game more than likely, unless Sam Ersson sees only like 15 shots in the game and doesn't work too hard in this game. You're not going to do this early in the season. You're not going to hand him a back-to-back and just let him play both because the points matter that much. The points matter all the time, obviously, but you're not going to do that and start to set a trend of running him into the ground from day one. You're going to have to see Fedotov, and that's going to be one example. So he'll get a chance, but I don't know how that's going to go. You do have, at least temporarily, the whole Alexei Kolosov situation. He's going to start in Lehigh Valley, so he is a call away. If he's performing well and Fedotov is not, or an injury strikes, you're probably going to see this 22-year-old goaltender make his NHL debut at some point. And we'd have to see where that's going to go. I wrote the other day that this is the most fascinating position that they have in the organization, because they have the 3 options internally, and then they've got 2 more that are being groomed, one in juniors, one over in the KHL in Russia. And that could be their long-term future in the grand scheme of things. These 2 19-year-old kids that are going to be making a lot of noise this year in their own respective leagues. But the 3 that you have in front of you are what are going to influence the success of this season. And if it plays out really well, if Fedotov turns out to be a really good backup for you, or maybe if Kolosov emerges, maybe you've got the goaltending tandem that you need to make some noise and be successful. And to me, it's the thing that kind of comes into line right after Mishkov is if the goaltending is really on point for you. And it's a big reason why they stayed in the playoff race until the last day of the season last year. They had such good goaltending to start the year that they won a lot of games, and they built up a decent margin to stay in the race, even when things started to fall apart. So if they can kind of get that again, there's no reason they can't stay in the race if their goaltending is on point.
And the key in today's NHL is you look at Boston, you look at Florida last year with the Florida Panthers, you look at a couple of years ago, Vegas Golden Knights. All of these teams, the teams that have been successful, even the Rangers, throw them in the conversation. They had Jonathan Quick last year, which is what a luxury that was. Having that guy as a backup, there's just Sturkin. Good grief. But I mean, all the successful teams have a tandem of goaltenders. So you can have an elite guy be your number one, but if your backup is a dud, it doesn't matter, right, Kevin?
Exactly. And to me, what worked so well last season at the start was, okay, Carter Hart's going to get starts because he was already getting them. And then
Right.
Sam Harrison turned into a really good 1B option when it came down to it. He was giving you starter quality numbers and was technically your backup. And that's what that's what most playoff teams would find as their ideal scenario, is having two guys like that. And then by the end of the year, the Flyers had one guy who was running on fumes and nobody else who could come in and play the position well. So
Right.
hopefully now you get that out of this position. You find somebody you feel like can be your long-term backup. I don't really have the funny thing about Harrison too, of being your starter, is he, to me, is unlike any other goalie I can really remember in terms of his demeanor is a little, usually these goalies are kind of crazy in a way. They've got some sort of crazy quality to them, in some way or whatever. And he just comes across as a typical guy, calm, cool, collected, very personable. He's kind of the opposite of like if you put him next to Ilya Brizgalov, you get a totally opposite feeling about him, because he's not anything like that. And that's what's interesting, he's this kind of guy who is going to definitely, he creates a calming presence when he's on the ice. And I think we saw that in different ways, because when he wasn't the number one guy, when it wasn't his net before Carter Hart was on leave, he carried that presence. It felt that's what made people really like him, was, man, the team just seems to play differently when he's out there. They seem like they're all in for him. They want to protect him. They want to block shots for him. And then he's really good as a result of that, because it feels like they're just all in. And you hope that carries over, because this is your number one now. And he's getting the start tonight, obviously, in the very first one that they've got.
All right, before I let you go, really quick, the most important thing I ask you today, Kevin,
Mm-hmm.
which mask do you like better design? Do you like Ersan's City of Brotherly Love or Fedotov's Rise of the Phoenix? Which goalie mask coming in to the season is better, Kevin Durso?
I got to admit, I am a big fan of Ivan Fedotov's mask. It is pretty sharp. I do like it.
It's pretty wild looking.
It is. Oh, it is. It's see, I use that, like, it's a personality thing, there's to a degree. Like, I don't think, Erson's is really cool. Has doesn't jump out at you as much. We've seen some crazy ones over the years. Carter Hart used to have venom on his mask and things like that, and used to try to do like a whole bunch of things like that, and did a bunch of different combinations, things like that. I remember for I think 1 year Brian Elliott wore something that was that resembled Ron Hextall's mask, and that was pretty cool. I liked that as a tribute. Yeah, there's some pretty wild ones, but Fedotov's is pretty sharp. I definitely think that's really cool. And like I said, Sam Harrison's is cool too. Whatever works for your style. And honestly, sometimes these guys change them halfway through the year anyway. They have multiple versions of them for whatever
that's true
uniform they're wearing. It's a few guys did that over the years, where they, depending on which jersey they wore at home games, whether it was the black alternates or the orange home jerseys, they would actually have a different mask for those games. It's pretty wild. It's turned into kind of like when, whatever cleats Bryce Harper decides to wear in a game, or something like that.
I'm using you talking to get the picture up. So
oh, that's fine. Okay.
I'm totally using you talking. So I'm just letting you know why I didn't say anything in return there. There it is. Oh, there's the that's the mask Durso likes.
I just think stuff like that, like, how do you not get distracted by that when you're coming up the ice? It's bold. It is bold.
So you're saying it's going to assist him then? He's gonna have you be a little distracted while he's covering the entire net.
I mean, can't hurt, right? And look good, play good, I guess. I don't know. That's the mentality of a goaltender too. These, like I said, goalies are characters, man. They're just, sometimes they're out there, but you got to be out there a little bit, I guess, to say your career is, I'm going to stop the rubber disc that's moving at 90 to 100 miles per hour for a living.
Kevin Durso, our Flyers insider at 97.3 ESPN.com, at Kevin_Durso on the Twitter X platform. And of course, don't forget Flyer Files, 97.3 ESPN.com, where the episodes will be posted after every time him and Haley Taylor Simon are doing those each and every Are you going to do that weekly throughout the season, Kevin?
Yeah, that's going to be weekly. And then don't forget on the Instagram page as well, on the 97.3 Instagram page, the pre and post games as well. So you'll have those. That's how you'll hear from me on a daily basis or close to. And then we got the weekly podcast as well.
Gotcha. All right, Kevin, enjoy the game tonight. Drink some extra caffeine and we'll talk soon.
Yeah, thanks, Josh. Catch a nap, Flyers fans. You're going to want to if you want to watch me cuff.
Or if you're just a night owl like me, you're just up anyway. So
yeah, that too.
I'm not a morning person, Kevin, if you haven't figured that out. So
I'm usually right there with you. So that's, sometimes, I'm not the biggest fan of these 10 p.m. starts, but I'm also not disappointed by them either sometimes.
Yeah. Take care, Kevin.
Yeah, take care, Josh.
Josh Hennig here on 97.3 ESPN FM, the 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Seattle. We'll get back to the text board coming up next, 609-403-0973. Your DMs into the 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Seattle. Jeff from Ocean City, your texts and more coming up next here on the Power Hour. It is Game Night on 97.3 ESPN live in the Ocean Casino Resort Studios.
It's Philadelphia Flyers hockey tonight on 97.3 ESPN and the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app. Listen as Tim Saunders and Todd Fedor bring you all the exciting play-by-play action.
He scored!
It's Philadelphia Flyers hockey tonight. Coverage begins after Padres, Dodgers, Game 5 on South Jersey's radio home for Philadelphia Flyers hockey. 97.3 ESPN and the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app.
With GM financing, the qualified buyers excludes Traverse and Corvette excludes prior sales. Need a car, truck, or SUV? Great! Get to Bennett Chevy, where you're going to get Bennett's best offers ever. You know Bennett sells new Chevys at the true GM supplier employee price, right? Well, right now, Bennett Chevrolet says, how'd you like to buy your new Chevy and pay $500 below the GM supplier employee price? Yes, $500 less than our employees. Plus, you keep all the rebates. That's up to 15% off the sticker. And with available 0% financing, you'll have incredibly low payments. And if you've got an old car to trade, right now you'll get a minimum $10,000 towards any pre-owned vehicle in stock. That's at least $10,000 for total junk. Imagine how much we'll pay for good trades. And wait till you experience Bennett's non-commissioned sales team. Paid on your satisfaction, not how much you spend. So they'll make getting all these unbelievable deals even better. Together, let's drive. Bennett Chevy, Egg Harbor Township, and BennettChevy.com.
Hey, what are you doing up on the step stool?
About to clean these light fixtures. The whole family's coming over. And if there's even a speck of dust in the house, my abuela will find it.
Here, I got a Swiffer duster to help with that.
A Swiffer what?
A Swiffer duster. It has this cool extendable handle that reaches 6 feet to get high and low, with fluffy dusters that easily trap and lock dust.
So no more step stool?
No more step stool.
Easily trap and lock dust from hard-to-reach places with the Swiffer duster. Love it or your money back.
This is the story of the one. As a warehouse manager, her job is to transform chaos into clarity and to see patterns where others see problems. Luckily, she's got a partner who shares her perspective. Grainger offers over 1 million industrial-grade products, backed by real person support and in-depth online resources, so she can tackle every task with precision and turn potential setbacks into streamlined success. Call clickgrainger.com or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Oh no, stomach issues again?
Stomach issues?
Who are you?
Your pancreas. I could be the real reason for your diarrhea, gas, bloating, stomach pain, or loose oily stools.
I thought it was my stomach.
People often do, but any of these symptoms could mean having a condition called exocrine pancreatic insufficiency, or EPI. With EPI, the pancreas doesn't release enough enzymes to break down food, but EPI is manageable. Use the symptom checker on identifyepi.com and speak with your doctor. That's identifyepi.com. Sponsored by AbbVie.
It's hurricane season. Are you prepared? Don't get left in the dark. Calvi Electric, a certified Generac dealer, has you covered. From installation to maintenance, they're your go-to experts for Generac generators, ensuring your home stays powered through any storm. A Generac home standby generator will automatically restore power to your home during an outage, so your life goes on uninterrupted. Put your trust in Calvi Electric, the premier electrical contractor serving South Jersey for over 115 years. Visit calvielectric.com today or call 609-345-0151.
Warning. The following ZipRecruiter radio spot you are about to hear is going to be filled with F words.
When you're hiring, we at ZipRecruiter know you can feel frustrated, forlorn even, like your efforts are futile, and you can spend a fortune trying to find fabulous people, only to get flooded with candidates who are just fine. Fortunately, ZipRecruiter figured out how to fix all of that. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. With ZipRecruiter, you can forget your frustrations because we find the right people for your roles fast, which is our absolute favorite F word. In fact, 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day.
Fantastic.
So, whether you need to hire 4, 40, or 400 people, get ready to meet first-rate talent. Just go to ZipRecruiter.com/free to try ZipRecruiter for free. Don't forget, that's ZipRecruiter.com/free. Finally, that's ZipRecruiter.com/free.
O'Reilly. It's Superstart Battery Month at O'Reilly Auto Parts. Get up to a $25 gift card after rebate with the purchase of select Superstart batteries. We'll test your old battery for free and recommend the right battery for your vehicle. For power, performance, and reliability, choose Superstart batteries only at O'Reilly Auto Parts.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Lenny Kravitz presents the Blue Electric Light Tour 2024. Live in Atlantic City, Ovation Hall and Ocean Casino Resort, Friday, November 1st and Saturday, November 2nd. Get tickets now at theoceanac.com. Lenny Kravitz, the brand new album, Blue Electric Light, is available everywhere now. For more, visit LennyKravitz.com.
Get ready for a Big Ten clash as the 4th-ranked Penn State Nittany Lions face off against the USC Trojans at the iconic LA Coliseum. Feel the adrenaline as these Titans clash Saturday. Listen to the hard hits, breathtaking plays, and the unyielding spirit of college football at its finest as Brett Dolan and the 1992 Heisman Trophy winner Gino Torretta call the action on this touchdown radio station.
It's College Football Saturday on 97.3 ESPN. Coverage begins at 3:30.
Now, more Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and on the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app powered by First Bank of Sea Isle City.
Text board is open at 609-403-0973. Your DMs into the 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Sea Isle City. And don't forget, of course, Flyers hockey tonight after the NLDS Game 5 here on 97.3 ESPN. Eagles this Sunday. Merrill Reese, Mike Quick calling all the action starting at 1 p.m. And, of course, it's after Billy Schwein, the locker room on 97.3 ESPN. On the text board, we have Jeff from Ocean City chiming in. Jeff chimes in, hey, Josh, I'm excited to see the Eagles offense at full force. Hope they get off to a fast start. Also looking forward to your picks. Well, we'll get to the picks in just a sec, but I will give you my top three keys for the Eagles game on Sunday. My number one key for the Eagles game on Sunday is if the Eagles offense can get out to a fast start. The Eagles are the only team in the NFL that has not scored a single point in the first quarter of a game this season. It's only fair to say that the Philadelphia Eagles need to be better offensively at the beginning of games. Now, you want to blame Jalen Hurts for that. You want to blame Kellen Moore for that. You want to blame whoever for that. Blame them all. I don't care. Whatever it is, I hope it got fixed during the bye week. They got to start scoring points in the first quarter of games. That's number one. Key number two, defense has to look like they did against the Saints and not the way they did against the Bucs. We know it's in them. We know they're capable of playing better. Hopefully, not being in 100-plus degree heat will be an improvement for Philadelphia's defense. They got to give the Browns zero hope on Sunday. The third key to this game is do not ignore what you're good at. I get it. People want these players to fit into this tightly neat little box. But you know what? Jalen is not like Tom Brady or Peyton Manning. Saquon Barkley is not Earl Campbell, okay? This offensive line was built to run the ball, okay? don't ignore running the ball in this game. I never understood why NFL teams get so far away from running the ball. So key number 1, score points in the first quarter. Key number 2, defense be relentless. Do not let them get any hope in the game. And number 3, you must be assertive in this game and run the ball. If you do all that, I think Philadelphia wins the game 24-13, which means we are going under in the game. Eagles under 42.5 for the game. NFL picks this year, 52-38-1. So give me Eagles, Browns under 42.5. Washington at the Ravens over 51.5. Cardinals team total over 20.5. And the same reason for Washington and Baltimore, I like the overs in these games, is because we're talking about defenses that are just not very good. And of course, you know what time it is. It's my
Stone Cold Lock of the Century. Or the week.
Give me the under 36.5 for Steelers at the Vegas Raiders. Pittsburgh hit the under in 4 out of 5 games this season. And of course, Vegas is starting Aiden O'Connell. No bueno. So give me the under 36.5 for my
Stone Cold Lock of the Century. Or the week.
Also in college football, we have our
Now you want to get nuts? Come on. Let's get nuts.
Ole Miss at LSU over 64.5. This is going to be a high-scoring game. Neither team's defense is good, so give me the over 64.5 for.
Now you want to get nuts? Come on. Let's get nuts.
Also, Colorado at home plus 3.5. Have a great night, everybody.
Saturday morning in the locker with Billy Schwein, producer Nick Earnshaw, former Kansas City Chiefs.
All right, for the YouTube only crowd, let's get through the full sheet of picks, because you guys who gracefully watch only on the YouTube channel, like, subscribe, share with your friends. Let everybody know that all the picks show up here on my YouTube channel each and every week. So we're basically, just to recap real quick, we're hitting 60% of our picks throughout the NFL season so far, 62% of the college football picks. So let's review more in detail each of these picks for you guys watching on the stream. So first of all, let's go back to the NFL. I mentioned the Browns and the Eagles. These are two defensive-minded teams that need to win with defense more than offense. I think Philadelphia is going to get a lead in this game and hold it. And then it's going to come down to, they're going to kind of hit the cruise control button at the end of the game. The real question is, can the Eagles defense do whatever the defense done against Deshaun Watson, which is shut him down? I do think this is probably one of those, 24 or 28-13 kind of games. In either scenario, it's going to be an under 42.5. To me, Ravens defense is not very good, and neither is Washington. I don't know why no one talks about this enough. I don't understand why nobody talks enough about how some of these defenses are just not good in the NFL. It's not that, football is bad in today's game. It's that some of these teams are just so well or so poorly coached that the players are not in a position to be successful. So I think you're going to see a shootout between Jaden Daniels and Lamar Jackson on Sunday, over 51.5. I mentioned the Cardinals over 20.5 at Green Bay. Green Bay's defense, man, I got to tell you guys, I had some questions about the defense. I didn't think it'd be like this, though. This is way different than I ever expected for the Green Bay defense. And on the flip side, you're talking about a Cardinals offense that has pretty much scored on everyone this year. They are borderline unstoppable offensively. Kyler Murray to Marvin Harrison Jr. has been a dynamic connection throughout the entire season. And you look at the Cardinals, even in the games, there's only one game really that their offense looked completely bad in, okay? And that was the Detroit game, okay? I understand people point to the Washington game. that was more Washington's offense than the Cardinals' defense. Washington got out to a lead early in that game and just ran away with the game. Meanwhile, Green Bay's defense, they were hoping changing the defensive coordinator was going to change things for them. Let me tell you, there's only one game this year where their defense was great, and that was the Colts game. So you're talking about a Cardinals game that has been offensively proficient in most of their games, a Packers defense that has really been only elite in one game, all right? And that was with Anthony Richardson. You could argue Anthony Richardson is the second or third worst quarterback in football right now. So realistically, we know the Cardinals are going to find a way to score points in this game. At least I think so. That's how I perceive it. I also like the Bucs 3.5 at the Saints. Spencer Rattler is starting for the Saints. Do you really think that a Saints offense without Derek Carr is going to score a lot of points? No. Look, the Bucs could win this game 20-10. Doesn't matter. They're going to win the game. And I think they're going to cover the 3.5 point spread. As I mentioned earlier in the conversation, my
Stone Cold Lock of the Century. Oh, the week.
Pittsburgh Steelers are hitting the under on the total points 4 of the last 5 games this season. Look, Aiden O'Connell, starting quarterback. If the Steelers defense plays anything like they're capable of, they will shut down the Raiders offense completely. Remember, no Devontae Adams again this week. He's dealing with a supposed hamstring injury. Not sure to say the guy's taking the injury, but it's very convenient. The guy's had an injury, and the team is exploring to trade him. Okay? Steelers, very good defense. They're a team that typically does not score a lot of points either. So give me under 36.5 for my
Stone Cold Lock of the Century. Oh, the week.
Also, since I have been called Mr. Over-Under, I must also throw in there the Chargers at Denver. The Los Angeles Chargers are playing the Denver Broncos under 35.5. The Chargers have hit the under in all 5 games this season. So those are my NFL picks. Now let's get to the college football picks. Again, we are 54-33 with the college football picks this season. I mentioned Ole Miss at LSU as my...
Now you want to get nuts? Come on. Let's get nuts.
By the way, if you don't know what that drop is, I don't know what I can do for you. I mean, that drop is there are people who think that's the greatest version of that character ever played was by Michael Keaton. Okay. Batman, the scene where he tries to make the Joker think that he's not Batman by basically being a psychotic person and getting him to maybe act out of character. And it's the moment in the movie where he finds out the Joker murdered his parents because of the line that he uses. Yeah, there's a lot going on there. But the reason I say it's a one again nuts play because Ole Miss and LSU, this is a matchup of 2 teams that came into the college football season hoping that they were going to be contenders for the playoff and maybe even the SEC championship. Now you're looking around if you're these 2 teams and you're wondering what exactly is the trajectory of your season. This is going to be a huge prove-it game for both of these teams. They have both suffered losses this year that I think most people didn't foresee, right? I think most people, and I say that a little tongue-in-cheek, but I think most people would have assumed coming into this season that these 2 teams would be undefeated by the time this game came around. But instead, you're talking about 2 teams that they have high-powered offenses with Grant Nussmeier, quarterback for Louisiana State, and Jackson Dart for Ole Miss. So you have 2 teams with quarterbacks who were talked about as potential NFL prospects, right? Both of these teams are with 1 loss on the year. So you're not even getting an undefeated matchup anymore. You're getting a flawed matchup. So what does that mean for these teams? Well, look at who LSU has played this year. They allowed a UCLA team to come into their house and score 17 on them. UCLA, not a good offense. They allowed South Carolina to score 33 on them. South Carolina, not a great offense. Even Nichols, a Division 1A, or what we call now FCS school, a lower division school, scored 21 on them. This LSU defense is not great. And now you have an Ole Miss team that was embarrassed 2 weeks ago at home versus Kentucky. Before that loss to Kentucky, they were scoring 40 points or more in every game. They went to South Carolina and showed them the business because they were so mad about that Kentucky loss. You don't think that they're going into this game at LSU, Death Valley, 7:30, primetime college football, and they're not looking around thinking, we got points to score in this game. Yes, give me over 64.5.
Now you want to get nuts? Come on, let's get nuts.
My other college football picks for you this weekend: Kansas State at Colorado. Give me Colorado plus 3.5 at home. Colorado is a team, first of all, that I think is better than people think they are. Okay, I think people are still holding the Nebraska loss against them. They're not accepting the fact that Nebraska is a better team than you think that Nebraska is. Also, Kansas State under Chris Kleiman as head coach. Kansas State is 0-5 on the road against the spread in their last 5 road games. That is a huge indictment for a Kansas State team some people thought could win the Big 12 this season. So give me Colorado to cover the 3.5 at home. Also, South Carolina. I mentioned them earlier for a reason. See, I'm pulling it all together. It's all connected. South Carolina this season has been a thorn in the side of many people who are gamblers, okay? I always tell you guys to pay attention to what the sportsbook is trying to tell you. And sometimes the sportsbook is trying to manipulate people into throwing away their money, because that's how the sportsbook makes money. They make money by manipulating you, the customer, to lose your money, whether by manipulating numbers, manipulating outcomes, not outcomes, manipulating the numbers that you see on the board. The outcome of the game could be completely different, but if they can make you think the outcome of the game is going to be a certain way, that's how they steal your money. South Carolina is a team that is scrappy. They went to Kentucky and dominated them. They barely lost to LSU a few weeks ago. And realistically, yeah, they lost big to Ole Miss last week. But that was more so Ole Miss trying to send a message. And don't forget, Ole Miss's quarterback, he's banged up. I think they're going to have a better idea what they're doing offensively going into this game for South Carolina. Don't forget, Alabama just lost last week. Nick Saban is no longer in charge. Nick Saban said something very damning about his team today on the Pat McAfee show. I was watching what Saban had to say, and he said that guys need to remember that they are not owed anything. They are not obligated to have anything. That's a huge statement by a guy who recruited most of the guys who are on that Alabama team. For him to say that there might be a little bit of an entitlement issue down there in Tuscaloosa under Kellen DeBoer. And I'm sorry, but Kellen DeBoer is not as good of a coach as Nick Saban is. We all can agree on that, right? South Carolina plus 21.5 on the road. I'm not saying they need to win the game. I'm just saying you guys are looking at this game and you might realize Alabama might win it. They might not dominate. That's a huge differentiation. That's where these numbers get involved, okay? I think the odds makers want people to take Alabama in this situation. I think the odds makers want people to run with Bama because of the fact that they just had a horrible loss to Vanderbilt. But at the end of the day, South Carolina is actually a good defense overall. Don't let the Ole Miss game fool you when they lost big Okay. This is a defense that is 31st in college football in points against this year. That means that they are one of the 31 best teams out of over 100 in college football. There is only one team that has scored more than 30 points on them this season. And that's LSU with Grant Nussmeier. Not even Ole Miss with Jackson Dart as quarterback, Lane Kiffin, the offensive-minded guru. Even they couldn't get 30 points. They scored 27. You think Alabama is going to win this game 40-10? I don't think so. Give me the South Carolina on the road at Alabama, 21.5. I also like Syracuse on the road, -3 at NC State. NC State's quarterback looks like he's out for the season, okay? It's a huge loss for them. I know there were a lot of people who looked at North Carolina coming in this year as a team that could maybe contend in the ACC, but it really hasn't gone their way this year. Their starting quarterback keeps getting injured, and I think Syracuse is finding their rhythm. That win over UNLV could be a kind of win that kind of propels them forward. Kyle McCord is playing very well in that Syracuse offense. LaQuint Allen, he has been a dynamic player at running back. So give me Syracuse on the road at NC State. Finally, and one more of these.
Let's get it. Another one. Another one. Another one.
Thank you, DJ Khalid. Hawaii. You know me in Hawaii. If you have watched me long enough on 97.3 ESPN right here on my YouTube channel, you know there are two things that I ride harder than anything else in college football. Home team dogs, like I did with Colorado, 3.5, and Hawaii at home. I get it, folks. This kid Gentry from Boise State, he looks like he's a Heisman Trophy candidate. He looks like he is going to be a phenomenal NFL prospect. I get it, folks. I totally get it. But Hawaii has a long history of making games closer than they should be, because if you're a team, you got to travel hours on a plane to a paradise island to play college football. It's a non-ideal scenario. So if you're Boise State, yeah, you got a 3-game winning streak. Yeah, you got a Heisman Trophy candidate in Gentry. The dude's a stud. He looks like a legit NFL player. But let me tell you something about Hawaii. They have really started to look like Hawaii again. They're not fully there yet, okay? They're still not winning as many games as they would like. But this season, Hawaii has covered the spread in every single home game. Whether it was Delaware State, UCLA, or Northern Iowa, they have covered the spread. You put Hawaii on the road, not as great, not as good. But at home, they can do something. And when I look at this Hawaii team, I know they're not a great football team. And I know Boise State is the better team. But boy, whether it's 21 or 20.5 is a lot of points. And when I look at this Boise State team, do they have a great running back? Yes. But look at who Boise State has played this year and tell me exactly who they dominated. They allowed 30 points to Utah State, not a great team. 24 points to Washington State, not a great team. 14 points to Portland State, they're definitely worse than Hawaii is. And they allowed 45 points to Georgia Southern, good, not great team. And then they lost to Oregon, allowed 37 points. You can tell me all you want about Boise State's running back Gentry, and he is a stud. But why is no one talking about Boise State's defense? They're not good. Remember, I gave you that stat, how South Carolina is 31st in college football in points against. Boise State is 98th. That means they are in the bottom third of college football in points allowed. And you're telling me that we take a bunch of 18 to 22-year-olds across the Pacific Ocean to Hawaii, that they might not be a little distracted. They might not be 100% against a Hawaii team that is way better at home than on the road. Yeah. We'll play it again, DJ Khalid.
Now you want to get nuts? Come on. Let's get nuts.
21.5 for Hawaii at home. Let's go, Rainbow Warriors. Yes, that is their team name, if you didn't know. All right. I got to get back to my station work. Thank you all for indulging me on all of my picks here on my sheet. Thank you guys for watching on the YouTube channel. Like, subscribe, share with your friends. Let you know each Football Friday we do these picks. We do a deeper dive into the games that I am watching this weekend. I will be with Billy Schweim in the locker room in some capacity this Sunday on 97.3 ESPN FM. I'm not 100% sure what the capacity is still because I'm waiting around. I keep checking my phone because no one's giving me a straight answer here. So I don't want to divulge any details, but I'll just say that we live in a world where I think people don't understand professional responsibility. And I think there's a lot of people who do a lot of talking and their actions don't follow up. And what happens is that older folks like myself, we get stuck between a rock and a hard place because people like me are the ones who have to pick up after these irresponsible kids. All right. Everyone says they want to work in this business. 97.3 ESPN FM, sports media. I have been very blessed to have worked in media now for what amounts to almost 20 years. And if I have learned anything from whether it's newspapers, whether it's radio, whether it's covering high school football, whether it's working in sales, whether it's running radio stations, programming radio stations, being a producer, being an on-air host, having a YouTube channel here, if I learned anything from the plethora of experience that I have had professionally in this business, it's that there has never been a truer time in my life than now, where someone once told me, if you want a job done right, you give it to a busy person. And daggone it, folks, I'm the busiest person you will ever meet. Thank you for watching at Josh Hennig on Twitter X. Josh Hennig here on my YouTube channel. Like, subscribe, share with your friends. Thank you for watching. Have a great night, everybody.